Welcome, I'm the Conspiracy Man. In this series, we'll be blowing the lid off many of the world's biggest conspiracies that the man doesn't want you to know about. I'm recording here in my secret underground shelter where no one can find me. This week, we'll be looking at a conspiracy to withhold a great new technology from the world in order to, well, I'll get to that in time. Fusion power is the holy grail of electricity generation. It's a way to produce near limitless power safely and potentially very cheaply. But like the actual holy grail, it's forever out of grasp. Sure, we've had nuclear power for years, but that's using nuclear fission, not fusion. The big current hope for fusion is ITER, the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, which for some reason is located in Nice, France. I'm not sure why. Must just be easier sciencing there than in Manchester. It's a joint project from the EU, China, India, America, Russia, Japan, and the good Korea. But if you look behind the scenes, it would seem that fusion power just isn't going to happen. 40 years ago, it was 20 years away. 20 years ago, it was 20 years away. And in the present day, it's still 20 years away. So why has fusion power failed to materialize? Of course, evil energy companies have had something to do with it. The sinister mega corporations that form more established power generation technologies, such as the giant solar and wind industries, have had a big hand in stifling fusion power. And I suppose fossil fuel companies have probably had something to do with it too. But there's something more at play here. Fusion power is so powerful that not even these groups could stop it. It's a kind of thing that can only be stopped by people at the very top, the governments of the world, or the one world government behind the governments of the world. Sure, they look like they support it by giving some funding, but that's just a cover so they can look like they ain't against it, and also they can keep an eye on it and control the project that way. But why would everyone be so against fusion power? It seems so perfect. To answer this, let us look at something else. Oil, black gold, Texas tea. In recent years, the price of oil has collapsed. According to Wikipedia, in September 2014, the price of US Texas crude oil was over $100 a barrel, but by 2016, the price was all the way down in the 30s. Lower than even during the GFC. Part of this price fall is due to soft demand reflecting a weakly growing world economy, but the other reason for this shock price drop is on the supply side. World oil production has exploded, metaphorically, as opposed to BP oil production, which literally exploded. But the other reason for this shock price drop is on the supply side. Greater production in North America, the lifting of Western sanctions on Iran, allowing them to sell more oil, then a massive production increase by Saudi Arabia, looking to cripple the North American shale oil industry. This price fall has triggered stock market jitters and a fear of economic collapse. But why? Sure, if you're one of the countries that relies greatly on oil export money for their economy, like Venezuela or Saudi Arabia, this will be a problem. But this should be a boom for other countries that use a lot of petroleum but produce little. Certainly for the overall global economy, this should be great since cheaper fuel allows everything to be done cheaper. But for some reason it was a concern for the global economy and had people worried. So while you might think that cheap unlimited fusion power would be a boon for the world economy and only affect the renewables and fossil fuel industries, you'd be wrong. You're stupid. Fusion power will provide the world with clean, cheap, limitless energy, and thus send the global economy into a depression. Provided I am not taken out by the powers that be, I shall return. When I return. What deep conspiracy will I be sniffing out like a dog sniffing out shit? Well, let me just say, no country for any men. Scared? You should be. If you'll recall, in a previous episode, I exposed the real threat behind the US presidential election and why the candidates were so undesirable. It's a fucking lizard people conspiracy. Since Donald Trump won the vote, there has been some talk on who the Democrats will pick for the 2020 election. I have seen an exclusive photo of the new candidate and his running mate.